Here we go. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to our 21st meeting
So you had trains.
on our budget.
We have buses.
And tonight, we're going to start off with the police pension fund, Dean Snap. He always takes hours doing this.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, as usual, this is gonna be short, sweet, and to the point.
Go slow.
You guys have got all the numbers in front of you. And I'm assuming they match what I've got. I will say this, right now, we're paying in the old fund, we're paying 35 people. We've got, 12 widows out of that, and 23 retired officers. I guess I spoke out of turn. 6 of those are convertees under the new plan, but they're being paid by the state out of 77 fund. We've got 2 that dropped, or 3 that dropped that are being paid, so their salaries are a little different than everybody else's because of the time of year they left and everything. Just so you know, the certified salaries for the old plan is $75,858.67. That's based on 24 years. And the 77 fund is $72,979.48. That's based off 20 years. And there still remains a $12,000 death benefit for both of them. Like I said, you guys have got the numbers on everything. Have you got any questions or you need to know anything?
How does that death benefit work?
Here, it's all in statute, so if you've got a spouse, it goes to them. If you've got, don't have a spouse, you got kids, it goes to them. And other than that, it'll go to your estate. It's $12,000. It's paid out of this fund for the old plan people. For the new, they have to go through PERF, and it comes from the state. Anything connected, well, the old plan is, everything is paid out in wages and everything, or in their salaries, is reimbursed twice a year. Half of it, I don't know what months, June, and then the other half at the end of the year. Their salaries are all reimbursed back to the city. As long as the pension secretary gets the report done and turned in.
Any questions?
Fair enough for all of us.
Thank you very much.
Everybody gets one bite. I get the first bite.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Fire pension fund,
Out of here.
Matthew Baker.
Good evening. So we have 2 main benefits, line items 1312 and 1314. 1312 pays for 27 retirees on the old fund, which is a 37. And then 19 spouses are paid in the 1314 fund. When you add them together, it ended up being a net decrease this year slightly. We did add in a slight raise. I believe it was 4.5%, which I believe the city has kind of agreed to give the union. So I added that in there. We don't have a contract signed, but I wanted to be ready for the next year when that does go through. The one change we did do this year is in the physicals, which is 3110 account. We did have 14,000, and then I increased it to 24,000, so an increase of $10,000. This year we've already exhausted our budget just from people retiring and other people leaving the department and trying to get hired back up. So we have 6 scheduled retirements next year. I believe we're still down several members. Hopefully in this year we can get caught up there. But I wanted to leave enough room in order to cover hiring people next year. And all that is pre-hire physicals. They have to do a psychological exam and a physical exam. And each exam is about $1,800. That's gone up over the years, I think. When I started doing this 8, 9 years ago, it was only $1,000. So it's almost doubled in price in the last 10 years. But, so we did increase that. That'll give us about 13 physicals. So that'll give us some buffer room in case we get some applicants who fail, which it does happen every once in a while. And like Dean explained, the pension relief does reimburse us for those 1312 and 1314 line items. Do you have any questions for me?
Any questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Thank you, Matt.
Police Department, you're up.
Good evening.
Good evening.
So I ran into Bill and Larry on the way up. We rode up on the elevator and I told them that I was gonna wow you guys with some information. So be prepared. So essentially what the police department is requesting is the same budget that we had last year. So what we've done is moved money around from lines that better suit our needs. Most notably, you'll see it'd be 1302, which is our overtime line. We have the 2024 final of 400,000. We moved that down to just 100,000. So we've done that because of changes that we've made as of January on some of the, we'll say, calls for service, the hiring that we've been able to do. And our prediction is that come next year that we will be up to staff and the overtime will essentially be obsolete. So that is why we have moved that down to the 100,000. So we've also moved money out of, looks like it's going to be 3916, which is our merit commission. We have taken that down from 35,000 down to 10,000. So we've done that again because that is the money that was being used for sign-on bonuses. We have not utilized that fund for sign-on bonuses. We've done away with that. What we are trying to do is recruit people that want to be here, not coming here because we're paying them to come. We get a better investment for our community if we have people and we hire people that are interested to serve this community. We want them bought into not just the police department, but the city of Richmond itself. So we have brought that down to 10,000 because those funds are not being used for the intended purpose of that sign-on bonus. So we have added to the continued education fund. So
Just get out.
What number is that?
Where's
There you go, continue education, 222.
Is that like this?
There we go.
What number is that?
That's 2228 right here, continuing education.
That was not actually put in the budget presentation list. That was one of the smaller accounts.
So, and just explaining the continued education fund, what we had for 2024 was 30,000. What we've requested and what we wanting to move that money into is 50,000. We do that because our goal and what our intentions are is becoming a hub for training, utilizing the police and fire training center for the intended purpose of it being there. We have 2 classrooms. We have already got classes scheduled to host for 2025. Some of those classes will be include our SWAT training classes. We have leadership classes coming in so we can train not just leaders for our agency, but agencies surrounding. I know in some of the leadership classes that I went to, one notably here at the Police and Fire Training Center, we had people coming from Ohio to attend those classes. So we want to bring those people here and become that hub. Our classes will fill up and we will continue to do that. So our goal is to be the best trained police department in the state. We need to be able to train our officers, let them come back and implement that training to the citizens of Richmond. So in meeting that, that is why we have increased that funding.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Engel?
So that's not really a source of revenue.
It is not.
Will it pay for the training of our officers?
So when we host classes, we will get a certain allotment of free chairs. So we will get some seating for those classes, but not all. So in our leadership classes, what we want to do is all of our first line and command staff leadership, we want them to go through some of the best training that is available out there. That is how you improve. That is how you grow, not only as an officer, but as a leader, is to see and learn from others. So we will have to pay some admission, but not all. It will save us on travel. If we host here, especially when we're looking at SWAT and leadership classes, we will be in home. So we won't have to go and pay for lodging or travel expenses.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
where's the overtime budget? I don't see it here.
Overtime was,
You said it was
1301.
1301?
Back on the 0370 budget.
1101.
What is it? Where is it?
1301.
1301, I don't have it.
1302 actually is the overtime.
1302,
Well, you're right.
so,
Where-
and that's down.
Mr. Chairman,
What is
Yes.
that under? See, no, right here.
Right there, overtime. Mr. Purcell?
yes, I think I understood what you meant, but you said taking it down to 100, you
So-
took it down by 100.
yeah, so
Okay,
Adam
yes.
just brought that to my attention. I misspoke. So we
Well, I
have
understood
gone,
what you were saying.
we have taken it from 400,000 down to 300,000. I apologize for that.
No apology necessary.
So 1302, Bill, is that line. An additional movement within the budget itself was to the CCD. What we need to do is concentrate on some of the things that have been overlooked over past years, not throwing blame at former council or administrations, but when it came to fleet needs and equipment needs, there was no forethought put into some of the things that our agency needs to go into the future. So I know we have, this year alone, we've been able to do some things with the assistance of the mayor's office to go ahead and get those things started. So we've been able to purchase more vehicles and more equipment, much needed improved equipment. And we want to continue that trend. So being able to move some more money into that CCD for vehicles and other things like that is going to help us out.
That's the additional 60,000.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Engel?
so I guess 300,000 for overtime in 2025, it's a better number than $1 million or whatever we've been spending on overtime. I guess there's really no way, do you think you could hit that mark of 300,000 for overtime?
Oh, if we continued at today's pace, I promise you we would surpass that.
Okay. I guess that's better. Good, thank you.
Any additional questions at this time?
It is what it is.
So other than that, again, I just want to add, this is essentially the same numbers that we were approved for in 2024. We haven't really asked for an increase. We do have plans in place to take the agency into the future. So your approval would be appreciated.
Yes, sir.
Chief, I know in our earlier meetings that we talked about your need for a replacement plan for your police cruisers of 8 cars a year. Have we been able to budget for that in this budget?
So we've added to that CCD to get some more vehicles, and I have been in talks with the mayor, and we have a plan in place to get additional vehicles. Now, moving forward, we will continue to need to make those plans to get that 8 cars a year rather than the 3 or 4 that we've been getting in the past.
I think everyone here would support that a replacement plan and budget for those cars.
And most definitely.
Thank you.
Any questions from council at this time? Hearing none, thank you. Fire department.
First off, good evening.
Good evening.
This is my first time doing this, so hope I give a little leeway. James and I started by the mayors to ask us to start looking at our budget for 2025 budget. So we actually went back through the last 3 years of budgets through the Richmond Fire Department, and we took a comprehensive look into everything that we spend line item by line item by line item. We had every division in the fire department submit to us what their wants and needs were. And so James and I started the budget plan. So we felt that we submitted to a proposed 2025 budget to the Finance Committee and the mayor. After that meeting, we were asked to relook at our budget and readjust. We did take a hard look to where to adjust and make some necessary increases and cuts or adjustments. The Richmond Fire Department right now is going through a transition from an older department to a young department. We've hired 11 this year. I am still currently down 8, and I know I'm losing 6 more to next year. That means if I get those all filled, that means 39 positions out of my 75 linemen will have less than 3 years on the department. We're very young. We're very young. Going to my 1,000 counts, I know the union has preliminarily agreed to a 4.5% pay increase next year, which is factored in. The 1,000 accounts, we rely on the finance department for those figures. I know overtime has been a major issue for the last several years, and at the end of this presentation, I have a little bit of a plan to try to cut that by 40%. So, my 2,000 accounts, the big ones, I kind of just, instead of going through line by line, my 2010, 2011 account, which is fuel. I did go to the fuel company, I pulled the numbers for the last 3 years of averages, and they've been underfunded. So, $5,000 increase in my gas fuel, which also adds DEF to that account, which is something that we use for environmental stuff on our engines. And an $18,000 increase in the fuel budget because it's actually been short the last 2 years and money's moved in it. And actually, as of today, with my secretary or staff member, she said that 2,000 accounts we'll see maybe a shortfall in the fuel in that count. There's an increase in the 2212 tires and inner tubes because just tires have went from $550 a piece to $800 a piece. It's just things have went up. Same thing in the 2213 fleet maintenance. We requested a 32. We settled for a $30,000 budget, which is an increase over the 2,500 increase over the 2024 budget. The 2320 repair supplies is an $8,000 increase. Everything, our SCBA, our repair cost, our meter repair, it just kind of, that account is the backbone of the fire department. I mean, if you want to pull up everything we put in there, kind of laid out everything that's in that account. The 2410, the general supply account, that's also an increase of $2,500 over the 24-year budget. All our computer station computers all have to be updated to the 25 software upgrade, and so our IT department basically has to rebuild those computers so the software will actually load, because currently they will not. The 2413 union accessories account, we had to increase $6,000 just because we're hiring so many people. So that's their clothes we buy, their badges, their dress wear, all that stuff. It's just I've hired so many. And like I said, if I get 11 here plus the 16 more, it's 26 people I got to put Class A's in next year. So it's a jump for that.
Let's stop right there and ask if there are any questions.
Yes.
Regarding those accounts so far. Hearing none, please continue.
That is the 2,000 accounts. The 3,000 accounts. The big one is the 3990 contractual services. That's our ESO, our operating systems, contractual services, our pre-hire testing, all that stuff. Everything's went up. I know our ESO, we got an increase of 25% or an $8,000 increase from last year's budget. It went up $8,000. So that figure is based on everything that we could price check down. We put it down to the penny almost. The 3210, our telephones, is just the data cost of increase. It's a $3,300 increase from 24. It's just the added data and cloud cost to run all our computers in our system. The 3620 repair equipment cost, that's a $10,000 increase. That incorporates like the tornado system that are being pieced together right now and that's a big expense to fix those, added expense. Like I said, that's all of our equipment for repair. I mean, it just covers everything as far as repair. The 3623 is our repair of our fleet vehicles, and we increased that by $5,000 from 24. We already know that our engine 9, which was our old engine 5, needs an engine rebuild right now. It's still a viable truck. That's still worth money, but we got to rebuild the engine, and we're still waiting on final cost on that. And we also know that our 21, which will be replaced next year, in the next year budget, will need a transmission as soon as that comes out of service. So we already know, preparing for that. The big one is our 3911, our training form. I asked for a lot of money in this. We cut it $20,000. We're still asking for $70,000. We need outside classes for hazmat techs. We need confined space techs. We need rope rescue techs. And those classes all have to come in, and a rope, just to give you a price for a rope rescue tech class, it's $16,000 for 20 guys. To bring an instructor in, it's 16 grand for 20 guys for a week for them to do that. We've lost so much experience in the last 4 years of retirement that we have to get these guys trained. We have to. And we can do a lot with our training program as far as our firefighter 1 and 2, our fire officer classes, but when it comes to specialized training, we have to bring outside training in to do it.
Chief, I have a question.
Okay.
What's the difference between your 3623 account and your 2320 account? Repair and maintenance supplies and repair and maintenance fleet.
Fleets, that's our apparatus. That's our engines, apparatus, that's our vehicles.
Okay.
And the other one is for all the equipment, saws, all the tools, and
Anything other than a fleet, is that what you said?
right, everything else but fleet, right,
Okay.
right.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
can I ask a question?
Yes.
So you mentioned engine 21 coming out of service next year. Have you made any attempt in this budget to start setting money aside for that replacement so it doesn't all have to come out?
Well, what we've done this year is, but last year's budget had 2 vehicles in it, and we felt because of the problem we have in engine 2 with the plumbing problem, and that problem, we thought we'd hold off until next year with that, using other dollars for the vehicles, but we need to move on getting station 2 fixed because there's a bad plumbing issue, and that issue, the plumbing runs underneath the floor, underneath the bathroom walls. To fix it, they gotta tear out 2 walls and to do all that, so we thought it's important to get that started and in place, and I think tomorrow it goes to Board of Works to start imminent repair on that structure indoors.
How much, so do you have an idea of what the replacement for engine 21 will look like?
We budgeted $60,000 for that, and we also, it's coming up in my other budget stuff that we budgeted, because we can use, I can use EMS money, because of EMS money, we have rules because of Medicare, Medi-Cal, how it works. We kind of have to be careful how we spend that money. So it could be used for vehicles since we run EMS. It can be used for the structure of where the EMS is housed, so we can use those dollars for that.
Okay. And you mentioned hazmat training, and in a prior meeting you had talked about how we don't have hazmat suits because of the damage.
Right.
Have you budgeted for hazmat suits?
Yes, I put in for a $30,000 budget for that, and
Mr. Chairman, that's coming up. There's a whole sheet for hazmat. There's a whole sheet for CCD. He's not to it yet, just so you know.
yeah, that's up. Yeah, that's it. And the other account, the 3991, is our uniform maintenance, which is basically we clean our turnout, it's sent off and repaired. We had to add $2,000 to that account just because the sheer cost of just everything like everything else, and everything in our world is went up. It's just kept going up, and so we've adjusted accordingly.
Mr. Purcell.
Yes. Chief, when I look through this, it seems very arbitrary, some of the increases, when I look at what you've spent today.
Well, some of that stuff doesn't, but what's been spent today, some of it, we still have money going out, allocated going out for things that we're working on right now that will be, like I said, hasn't hit the ledger yet, but they will be being spent.
Well, like, let's just go to repair maintenance fleet. You've got 50,000, you've spent 8, and you're asking for 55.
Well, because right now, ladder 10 is out of service, and we have a cylinder that we're waiting on to see what that is going to actually cost us to repair. It may take a lot of money. Yeah, it's out of service right now. Ladder 10 is out of service. It has a little leak inside one of the cylinders, and we're waiting on the company to come look at it to see how much it's going to cost us to fix.
That's the 2013 area.
Yes, that's the 2013 area.
Thank you.
And, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Woodward.
And I just asked Tracy, these are numbers reflected through 6:30.
Yes.
So that's the 3,000 accounts as far as the increases in the 3,000. A lot of the other 3,000 accounts are basically electric or water bills, and there's an increase of 3,000 in the gas bill because the pole barn comes online here soon, and we have to heat that through the winter. So I mean, there's going to be extra costs associated with that.
Any questions from council at this time for 3,000 accounts? Hearing none, please proceed.
EMS, we go to EMS. The 22, the big increase is in the 22, 15, 24, 11 account. That is our EMS supplies, which means that's all of our supplies on the ambulances, drugs, Band-Aids, everything that we use in the medical field. Right now, today, it was budgeted for $185,000 in 24. Today, we checked that we have $36,000 left. We're burning through about $21,000 a month in medical supplies. So we had to adjust that, and it's an increase of $101,000 to cover just for the rising in medical costs. Like I said, we pulled the numbers today to make sure, and like I said, we know we're going to have a shortfall in that account come the end of the year.
Are we in EMS?
Yes.
Okay.
The 2210 EMS fuel is a $3,000 increase. That's just to cover the cost, the increased cost, and based on the numbers that we did on what they're using fuel for, as far as that goes. EMS repair parts is a $2,000 increase. The big one is a 3911 is EMS training. This is our paramedic and EMT. This is where that comes out of. And right now it's about $2,000 per EMT, and it's right now it's $10,500 for our medics to go to medic school. Since I have so many openings to go, I'm planning on sending 8 next year. We're sending 7 are getting ready to start in next month, and we'll start 9 next year in that program. Let me back up. Reed has started a paramedicine program that's here local. We're trying to get it off the ground to get it started. So we're putting 7 members in that program to get that thing started through Ivy Tech. If it does well, then we will have a local place to send our people to, so they're not having to drive to Indianapolis or Dayton or Ohio to get their medical license. It's a hands-on program where the other 2 have a lot more virtual, and from Dr. Kraft, the director of Reed, they're finding out that the virtual, they're not getting enough training, on-hands training, so this is a hands-on training program, so we're going to try and support it and see if it benefits us in the future, is what we're doing.
How long is that program?
It runs, the medic runs 11 months. So, and we're hoping to get it, so they're running 2 simultaneously a year. We hope to get it where they can put 2, and we can put our people in 1. Because they want to keep their class around 15, and like I said, I have enough people coming on and in transition that I could staff that class for the next 2-3 years.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Sorry to go backwards, but the EMS supplies at 21,000 per month for 12 months is 252,000. And for 25, I think you had budgeted 280,000.
Right.
86.
Yeah, we measured 286,000, and that was just on today's numbers. We don't know what next year's numbers are going to be. So
do you foresee it going over 30,000?
I foresee it. It's been going up continuously, and we're shopping 3 different places to try to find the cheapest medical supplies. I mean, every month they're coming in and trying to find the cheapest, because in some of the shortfalls we can't even get, we have to spend extra money to get, so we have to have a little bit of leeway in there. So if something does that we use, we can't get, and we have to pay more to get, we have to.
Does that ordering process go through the department, or does it go through purchasing of the city?
It goes, the EMS chief, he does his inventory on the supplies, and then they order accordingly to what they need supply-wise, because we basically have a whole room of medical supplies that they pull from. And then, like I said, once that starts to get to a point, they have to order. It's just continuous order.
Thank you.
This is kind of the cost of doing business, I would say.
So,
If I'm reading this right, between this budget and your general fund, you're at 1.5 million on overtime.
Right. Well, and like I said, this year has been this year's been a tough year. When we started, when I came in January 1, we were down, even after hiring a 5, we were down 3. Then we lost 4 people left for other departments. We just lost 2 more out of the fire service altogether.
EMS.
No, out of our department. We lost 6 people, just, right. So if they were still here with what I have hired, we would be fully staffed. We would be really close to fully staffed. But every time we get close to being fully staffed, it seems like either they leave or, we had one just leave 2 days ago that he's out of the fire, he's out of service. He went to work for a parts company. He doesn't want to do it no more. I mean, I can't force guys to stay and work. And then some people go, and that's one of the problems in the state, the hiring and retention that we're dealing with. We hire, we train, and then if they're mobile, which a lot of these younger kids are mobile, they'll go where the money's at. And if it's a $20,000 or $30,000 increase, you can't stop them. I mean, we try as much as we can to try to make sure we pick the right people to stay, but I mean, I had a person that was local decided, I had 2 people local leave this year that were local from here.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Parker?
You mentioned retention. Do you currently have any retention program or focus in the department?
Well, that's what I'm getting ready to work on is, I just had a meeting with administration, and I guess I'll jump ahead to this. We've got permission to use EMS dollars to start a cadet program of 6 members a year. So we know next year we're losing 6. We already know we're going to lose 6. So what we want to do is get 6, hire them as city workers under 40-hour work week, and go ahead and get their training process accomplished. Go ahead and get their EMT, go ahead and get their firefighter 1 and 2, get the things that we need so we have them in place. Because what happens is, if someone we hire leaves, it takes 6 months to replace. It's a 5-6 month replacement.
Is that different than what Richmond High School is doing?
Richmond High School is giving them EMT and firefighter 1 and 2, but if they apply, and in our hiring process, what we're doing is people that have firefighter 1 and 2 or EMT, we move to the top of the list. They're first. But we have a stack of people that have 0. So instead of throwing them away, let's try, we want to start a program to get these guys hired or trained. And so next year when I lose 4 in February, I've already got, or March next year, I've already got guys in place being trained already. And then we just, when they leave, we plug one in. Because what we'll do is we'll run them through the process all the way up till they'll go to PERF physical. If they pass the physical, then we stop them there and we don't progress to the pension board. We leave them as a city employee. And then once that happens, that process happens, and we know that guy's leaving, then we put him in that spot.
And the reason why I bring it up is I think though retention isn't necessarily budgetary, but it becomes budgetary with training, all the Class A's being purchased and things like that. And so focusing on a retention program, I think could be very cost effective.
And just like Mr. Baker just spoke before me, I mean, he ran out of money this year, and we've had to help pay for those guys going to the PERF because we can't stop hiring just because of that. You know, we understand the problem. Which leads into, if we get that program in place, we are going to petition state, and I've got permission to petition state to run our own physical agility test here. And that way we can get a list of people that's passed the agility test and get them through the testing procedure. And that gives us a list, at least we're through the agility part and the testing procedure. That gets them to a list, then we can start working on that. So we're kind of ahead of the game a little bit. Instead, we're always behind it. We're always behind it. Because, like I said, if it's a drop guy leaves, we have time to figure, hey, we know he's leaving. We got time to really get someone there. But when we have 5 guys or 6 guys leave this year, they just let them leave. It puts us, we're 6 months behind to get them. So trying to get those guys caught up 5 guys leave retired that we thought we was gonna hire for, we didn't get to hire for, and it's just reciprocal. It's just a constant mess. And we're trying to fix it. I mean, we're really taking a hard look at it, how to fix it. If we get that fixed, that should bring our overtime down at least, I would say at least 40%. But I can't, as far as the overtime for next year's budget, I told Sherry to leave it alone, and if we get this done, it will be a savings.
Mr. Purcell?
I'll be honest, I'm a little bit confused why we would start a cadet program when we have a cadet program, why we wouldn't invest more in trying to recruit into that program. Just
And we have. And I mean, I have Officer Moore that teaches the cadet program. We're trying to get those guys to come here, but some of them want to go to college first. They're high school kids. Some of them want to go do something first. And we hope, and what I consider the high school program a garden. You plant their seeds. We're planting seeds. And maybe when they leave here and they go someplace and get a job, maybe they don't want that job, they want to come back and go, oh, you know what, I can go back and be a fireman. Because we've had a couple of those guys that was in the program, we just hired, that went to service for 3 years and come back. So we are getting those guys. But when you're losing 5, 6, 7, you're constantly down 8, 9, 10, 11, it's hard to get. It's a challenge. And then the hiring process of 5 to 6 months, because the people we're hiring today, all the guys who started in the last 2 weeks, are from February, March applications. I mean, it's a time-consuming process. I mean, we can do certain things quickly, but then once it gets into the background checks and the interviews, and then to the state and back and then to the state, it's just a process. And since it cost us, I mean, us $1,600 to $1,800 a guy to send to the perf, you want to make sure that you've checked all the boxes with him. So, because it's really disheartening when you get one, you think goes to perf, we've got him hired, and then they pull his medical records and he wasn't honest about something and they went $1,800. You know what I'm talking about. It's hard.
And as far as doing your own physical agility, that's going to be very well monitored, or there's going to be accusations of all types.
It's based on how it works is
Doing
because
it in-house.
what's happened is it's becoming more prevalent across the state. And what it is you take, and you, because of you, buying all the stuff for the CPAC that we actually have all the equipment already purchased. So what we have to do now, besides the box of crawl in, which we're going to take the high school program to build it for us and help build it for us, we get that in place. We have the CPAC and the spacing. Basically what you do is you lay that whole thing out, map it, take it to the state, the Fire Safety Commission, they see it and they check off. And it has to basically, it can't be harder than the CPAC, but it's got to be really, really close to it, and it's the same time frame, the same, as far as the house laid out. The 85 steps. Yeah, and by doing our own, sorry, I get sidetracked. By doing our own, to get the CPAC card, we got to send them to Indianapolis or Fort Wayne. It's $150 per card. Well, by doing it local, we may get more people that maybe don't want to spend $150 or they're afraid to spend $150 because they can't pass it. So it opens, I think it would open up to more local people, definitely females, definitely that would be opening up to that because I think they're afraid to go take it. And if it's free and they can come take it, and then if they don't pass it and they go, you know, I was real close, then we do it, and they can do it, you know, we'll do it kind of every year. We'll have a yearly program.
Well, that's the reason we bought all the equipment, was to let them try it, to give them more confidence.
Right, and that's, well, we're going back to the old idea. I mean, we're going back to where I think we need to get people here, local, and hopefully they're homegrown and want to stay here. Because, I mean.
Let's continue.
Okay, sorry. But that's the 3,900 as far as, that's the EMS in a nutshell. Except for the 2215 4436, which is EMS motor equipment. We've put a plan in to buy one new ambulance every year. And by that, if we do that every year, by year 8, one rotates out, one rotates in. So we have a plan as far as that. The 2 staff vehicle replacement, we budget for $120,000. We still owe a lease on engine 3, which is a $75,000 lease. And then we had a wreck of an ambulance 3 months ago, and we're going to rebox it. It's $100,000 savings, So with what the insurance money gives us for the total of the accident, plus what we add to it, we're going to basically have a new ambulance for about $100,000. So instead of spending $300,000, we're going to spend $100,000. Now, reboxing means they're taking the box off the old ambulance and putting on a new chassis. So basically, it's a new ambulance. That is becoming more prevalent in the state because the sheer cost of ambulances have went from the one that was wrecked was $180,000 new, to replace it's $310,000. So it's an option to try to save money. So I know a lot of the Indianapolis hospitals are doing it, and the company that we're doing it has a lot of good reputation for it. So we think we're going to try it. If that works, then, because once we get rid of the two 2014 ambulances that we currently need to get out, the boxes are on the rest of those ambulances that we have are good boxes to do this with. If you understand what I'm saying? So it's a cost-saving way to approach it. But we're going to test it with this first one because the ambulance was totaled. We're going to rebox it, and if it works well, then in the future we'll look at that as a viable option to save money. So, hazmat, you guys.
We're ready for hazmat.
Hazmat has been, it's a 2238, 2376 account. There's been $5,000 put in that account for the last 5 years, and basically that $5,000 covers the spag sword, oil absorbent. When we go on car wrecks and stuff like anything that leaks fluid, that's what we use it for. This year when we came in, we went through the hazmat trailer, all our suits and everything has failed, and we're in dire need to get that stuff back. So I put in for a $25,000 increase in that line item. Basically, to get suits, a suit is about $3,000 each. Okay, so you don't take long to spend in hazmat, but we need to be, I'm not saying we have to be the best hazmat team in the state, but we need to be good enough to mitigate. I kind of use the sanitation as an example. If they have a chlorine leak in the chlorine tank, we should be able to go down and fix it. To fix that, you have to be in a suit, to patch the suit, the tech. We have to have that. We should be at least that level where we're at. And right now, we're not. So it's a big need. It's a big need. And then, on top of that, 7 of my techs have retired in the last year and a half. So I got to get training back to get guys back into the tech so we have the people. Because even if we get the equipment, if we don't have the people, we can't use it. It's a very challenging issue. We are looking at some more grants. There was a grant come out yesterday that we're looking into to see if we can get some grant money to help offset some of those costs. But you know how grants are. We'll do our best to get them, but that's all I can say about that as far as that goes.
Yes, sir.
How many suits do you need?
At least 5. And that's, when you say 5, that means 20 sets of boots, 20 sets of gloves. I mean, because when you get a suit on, that's one thing, but then you got to put gloves and boots, and these are encapsulated suits.
More than $3,000 a suit.
Yeah. That's just to get us back to an operational level. Now, to go up, if we can get grant money to get training and get other stuff, we will pursue that.
Chief, any idea how often we use the hazmat?
Well, it's the big problem about the hazmat is, and Jerry would attest, the county, in the whole county, we're the hazmat team. Am I wrong? So if anything happens in Wayne County,
You're up.
we're calling us. We're up. So we have to have a bare level of response. And right now, it's just been, I'm not throwing shade on anybody, but it's just been, it's one of those things that out of sight, out of mind. We don't use a lot, and it kind of gets pushed to the side, and we've got to bring it back a little bit. I'm not saying we have to go to a full 35-man hazmat team, but we need to have a response.
Do you currently have anybody trained?
We have 7 techs still in the department.
that are
Right.
currently?
So we still have 7 techs, but I think 2 of them leave next year. So that's why I said it's important to get the hazmat tech class here. We need at least 10 more.
And so if you want 5 suits, you have 5 people to fill them out. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Any additional questions?
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Purcell?
It's more of a comment. What probably most people sitting here do not understand is that businesses and companies in our city list us as their provider. And if we're not there, they have to hire outside contractors. So it's a great incentive to have these teams for them to list. And yeah, they're not used very much, but when they are, it's very important.
And add to that, the same thing with confined space, because every day we get calls from companies in town that they're entering their confined space and we're the response. We have enough people to make the response, but that list of people has shrunk because of retirement, and we just haven't had a class. We had the last hazmat tech class was in 2014. So I mean, you see what I mean? We have to, it's a have to thing that we have to, because I mean, the city depends on us and the county depends on us in these certain situations. We're dependent on in those situations.
Moving on.
CCD money, the 4470, the portable radio plan, we're continuing that. Basically, we're buying 8 radios a year. That means the average lifespan of a portable radio is about 7, 8 years. So we bought 8 this year, we're gonna buy 8 next year. We need about 44, 45 of them portables because that's, you know, what we need. They're $1,500 a piece. So that $15,000 portable radio, we use 12 up for that, and then antennas and extra stuff, base radios, new radios go into the ambulances, the base radios, those all have a cost to them. Sometimes we can refurbish the base radios out of other ambulances, they have about a 15-year life. If we put one in a fire truck, it stays in the fire truck forever, because it's one in life. But an ambulance, if we move an ambulance after 8 years, we'll take those radios out and reuse those. So it's just, that's kind of how we work that. The 4490 other equipment, we asked for a lot out of that account. We got a $440 raise to $133,940, but basically that covers our turnout gear, helmets, all of our equipment is bought out of that fund. So all the fire equipment. And when you see a firefighter standing there with turnouts, helmet, gloves, boots, that's $5,000 per guy. I mean, that's just to break the cost down, what turnouts cost. It's, yeah.
Any questions this time?
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Purcell?
do we have an idea at the end of each year, under the sunk cost model, what is net going into the non-reverting?
Well, I don't have that exact number per se, but I just had our Medi-Account meeting with Medi-Account the other day, and I know that EMS is going to generate roughly $3 million this year. We'll bill for 4.4, we'll collect about 3.
And the EMS budget, I'll go back and look. I can look at that and calculate that at that
Yeah.
point. And the only reason I ask is, when did we start taking CCDF money again from the city? Because I know when I was there, we gave it all to the police to help them with their cruisers, etc.
Well, like I said, I have in the 2215 4490 CCD money as far as allocation. I asked for $831,000 in that account because apparatus wise, we're in not bad shape, but some of our firehouse, especially Engine 1, we need new ramp.
I'm talking EMS.
Yes, this is the
Not
EMS.
city.
This is
I'm
not
talking about city.
CCD. This is the EMS, non-reverting capital improvement. I guess I would call it the capital improvement EMS. The only thing about that account is we have to be careful because Medicare and Medi-Account dictate what we spend some of those dollars on. So we can spend them on the building because it houses the ambulances. We can spend them on stuff like that, you know. And so I know right now we're looking at the ramp at Engine 1 is sinking. It needs replaced in the worst kind of way. And estimates are coming in around $100,000 just to put 16 feet of concrete, basically. It's a big cost.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
if I may, see, last year's council put $148,000 in CCD for fire in the 2024 budget. I don't know what it was in '23, but yeah. administration put it in and last year, so it started, I know it started
Well-
this year, 2024, but.
I know we were weaned totally off of it.
But I think I can answer that is because, again, Medicare money can only be spent on what they deem EMS billable money, and fire helmets and turnout gear. I don't think that's why it's been pushed to the CCD money in the general budget, because if we're ever audited, you don't want to show that we're spending money on fire department stuff and not EMS stuff. I mean, they commingle, we understand how they commingle, but, you know, we have to be careful. Huh?
Medicount's just a billing company.
Medicount is a billing company.
Yeah. They're, but you're saying Medicare dollars.
I mean, no,
Medicare dollars.
Medicare, yeah, our Medicare, Medicaid dollars that we collect out of the EMS fund to pay that goes into that fund, the non-reverting fund. We have to be careful what we spend it on per their guidelines.
You have to make sure you understand the private insurance payments as
Right.
opposed to Medicare, yeah, all of
And that's why I said, I think that's where the turnout gear and all that equipment got pushed back into the general fund.
Thank you.
That just about takes care of it, doesn't it?
Anything else, I hope?
Any
I hope I've done
questions?
okay.
Any questions?
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Engel?
then, Jeff, the police cruisers listed here under 4441, 200,000 for next year, that's,
That's city CCD.
That's city money.
okay.
That's not,
That's,
now I'm using the EMS, the 4490, 2215, 4490 account is the EMS, or 4436, excuse me, is we're using staff, we can use that staff vehicle, you can use that money for staff vehicle replacement, which one is the EMS chief, he sent his vehicle's a 2014, it's time. And Unit 21 is at 5 years, and we're usually rotating them at about 6 to rotate them down, so that's why we're replacing those 2 vehicles next year.
thank you.
Any additional questions or comments? Thank you.
Thank you guys very much.
Took care of sanitation and code enforcement last night. Infrastructure and development.
You left unsafe building.
Pardon me?
You left unsafe building
Oh,
tonight.
did we? That's right, you're correct.
There's a slight change you probably should be aware of. You know, pull it up. Go ahead. Unsafe building. It's under code enforcement. All the tax funds that go into this increase quite a bit. There is one expense increase, legal publications keep going up, and the frequency, the quantity, and the cost. So overall, though, it ends up with a higher ending balance than it does now. So the overall cost of unsafe building commission will be less. There's more revenue coming in, and the revenue increase greater than the expenses increase. That's what I want to say for unsafe building commission. There you go. Pretty clean.
That's
Oh, I did want to say on code enforcement, if I may. May I, Mr. Chairman?
Sure.
I misspoke last night. There will be 3 full-time code enforcement inspectors next year. One of them's on a special assignment through the end of this year, and they'll be back in regular code enforcement next year. So we don't need to add a 3rd position. It does exist, and it's
Okay.
there. I just forgot they've been on special assignment for a few months and not actually going out doing inspections, but they'll be back on the street in January. So we don't need to increase that fund. We're good.
Where,
Thank you.
where are we?
Mr. Engel?
Infrastructure. What about, did we do unsafe building there?
You just did.
I was paying
Better than
attention,
expenses.
but I'm still wowed about spending $1.5 million on overtime.
So am I.
Infrastructure.
Good evening, council.
Good evening.
I will run through some of the notable changes in the I&D general fund. I'll begin with the revenues, so starting with the licenses for both electrical contractors and for HVAC licenses. In both of those cases, I've projected an increase we've seen quite a few new contractors licensed with the city this year. Typically, these revenues don't begin to come in until the final month and a half of the year. And so you can see, especially on the electrical contractor licenses, we're almost at our 2024 projection, and we haven't really even gotten to the busy time of the year. So I felt pretty comfortable projecting some increases there. Next, on the building permits, you'll see a pretty large increase there, and that's kind of premised on a couple things. The first is that we are, I think, expecting some more construction in 2025 than we've had in 2024, both on the commercial side and then with some potential larger housing projects as well. And then in addition to that, in a couple months, I'll be bringing a couple ordinances to council to increase our fee schedule in infrastructure and development, both our building permits and our planning and zoning permit fees. Our building permit fees haven't increased in about 20 years, and so my proposal there would basically just account for inflation over that time and kind of put us back in line with some of our peer Indiana communities. So that explains the increase there to $225,000 in 2025. Similarly, the zoning fees, which is the change in the zoning map here, our zoning permit fees haven't increased in 44 years, so we are very low relative to other Indiana cities. So I'll be proposing an increase in those fees as well in a couple months. And so that explains the projected increase there as well. And I think that's kind of a modest projection. I think it could potentially be a bit higher than that in 2025. I have a projected increase in certificate of occupancy and reinspection fees, and those are similarly tied to the anticipated increase in construction as well as the potential fee increases. Any questions on the revenue projections?
Nope.
Move on to expenditures. I'll jump down to the 200s. So I've just split general supplies into general supplies and office supplies. This is just to kind of alleviate some confusion in our office that had occurred this year. And I've asked for an increase of $300 total between the two of them. You'll see in the 300s on professional services and contractual services, I've reduced those quite a bit. Just at this point, it was difficult to justify asking for the 2024 amount without kind of concrete plan in place for those funds. So I felt pretty comfortable reducing those. It is possible next year I might, ask for those to be bumped back up if there's something specific in mind to spend them on. A little further on the 300s, we have slight increases in telephone, postage, and copier changes. That's a $500, $200, and $200 increase respectively. And that's just trend-based, just based on where we were at about midway through this year. And on subscriptions and dues, I had initially requested an increase there, and that was because part of the city's Laserfish subscription had come out of IND subscription and dues account. So I wanted to account for that. I see that has since been reduced, which I'll interpret to mean the Laserfish will not be coming out of IND's account, in which case the 1587 is fine. Then on 505-443, you'll see computer equipment. I'm requesting $1,250 there. This is for our GIS coordinator to get a new computer. His work deals with a lot of data, so he kind of requires a machine that's more powerful than what most of us use. And he's just well overdue for a new computer. So we talked to his counterpart at the county to see what kind of computer he was using. We got estimates on that, added 8% just to be safe. And it came to just about exactly $2,500. So we talked with Tracy in IT, and he said he thinks IT could probably cover half of that, hence the $1,250 request. Any questions on expenditures?
Any questions? Please proceed.
That's all I have.
Excellent.
Airport.
So with the airport budget, when we look at that, I think you can see that they are projecting some increases in their revenue with their farm lease as well as with their additional revenue for fuel sales. The farm lease, as a reminder for that, they have 489 acres that are leased at $451.90 per acre. So they are receiving a generous amount for the farm ground there. As you move on down to the expenditures, there's not a whole lot of change until you get down to the 2209, which is the aviation fuel. They have additional fuel needs. They are seeing a lot of activity at the airport, so they have a need for additional fuel. You will see that that is an increase of $40,810, but if you refer back to the aviation sales in 5907, you'll see there's a projected increase of $53,910. So you are going to net an increase even with that additional amount. The other items that have increases are mainly just for projected increases in cost. With their contractual services, those cover any time that they have a maintenance issue on the property, if they have to call someone out for HVAC or to fix mechanicals or other items of those sort. That is what that funding is used for. As well as the insurance, property and liability, which Kenyatta covered last night in human resources. There is a slight increase there as well. They are continuing to grow their cash balance. Each year they're trying to grow that cash balance in anticipation of being ready to build a new terminal at the airport. And so there are FFA funding that is being applied for that. So they are continuing to build that cash balance, so they will have a great portion of that match for that grant when that does become available.
Any questions?
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Engel?
so that's that 3,100,416, that's what they're building that toward, or they're building that fund toward the new hangar, paying for the new hangar.
So I'm not certain where you see the 3 million number.
I'm seeing it here under the
If you look at the,
ending fund balance.
That is not what that is. Go to the airport, the first tab.
The
And
what?
yeah,
there,
it's
there,
the
right there is your fund balance.
736.
700,000.
Yes, 700,000. 736,437.11 is the projected ending cash balance at the end of 2025.
Rodney actually called me about that today, and I spoke with him, and I went through BSNA and verified it is the 700,000.
And Mr. Burkhardt just mentioned that's for a terminal, not for a hangar.
For sure.
They're different.
They are.
Yes, there will be requests for proposals going out shortly in the next 30 to 60 days to retain a firm that would do the design work for that terminal.
Do we have a number on what the terminal will cost us?
No,
Will it be a terminal?
that's what this firm will do, is they will work with the airport board and the other stakeholders to determine exactly what is needed in the terminal, and then they will give an opinion of probable cost for that, an estimate.
The last time we designed it, it was about $3 million.
Is that right?
That's why I didn't get.
So quite double that now, probably.
I hope not. It's gonna be in that market.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Expensive.
For the terminal construction, are there plans for the current terminal, or will that be demolished? Or is that even talked about at this time?
I think that is still an ongoing discussion.
Okay.
But I'm sure it'll come down.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Mayor?
Doesn't it have?
when I was on the board, the
structural
plans were to build a new terminal
Yeah.
south of that
Well,
terminal,
the
and when it's
roof
done, demolish the other
That was
terminal.
what that brought.
So they can still have, they need an active terminal while it's under construction. So yes.
Any additional questions?
Who's our, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
Who's our representative on the airport board? Is it you?
No, Dan.
It's Rick. Oh. And you'll keep us posted on the progress on that.
Yep.
Thank you so much.
Any additional questions regarding the airport?
I was. I just.
Hearing none?
They was not
Roseview.
welcoming.
As a reminder, with Roseview Transit, NDOT accepts applications every year in May for operating funds for the airport for rural transits from their 5311 program. During that application process, you apply for both federal funds and state funds during that process. This is the first year that NDOT has not provided those numbers in advance. So in previous years, NDOT would tell us, you are getting X amount in federal dollars, you are getting X amount in state dollars, build your budget to match that back into it. This year, after many years of our transit as well as other transit authorities saying that just doesn't make any sense to us, can we not build you a budget on what we need, submit that, and then you provide that award to us. So that is the process that they're going through. We submitted an application to them and a proposed funding, and then towards the end of September or the 1st of October, we will hear the results and we will be notified as to our award. And then at that time, we will come to you for approval of acceptance and appropriation of those funds. NDOT runs on a July 1 through June 30th calendar year. So our applications are due to them in the first part of May. So these applications and these numbers that we have here were prepared at that time. So in looking at this, you'll see that funding, the way that funding works is 50% comes from the federal grant, then 25% comes from the state, and then 25% is expected from the local community as a grant match. So you will see those numbers that we have reflected there. As we look at the expenditures there, in the salaries under contract, the Transit Authority has 15 full-time positions. Currently, 2 of those are vacant, and then they have 3 part-time positions, and currently 2 of those are vacant. They also have 3 administrative staff, and then they have 1 staff person that is funded 80% through the transit budget and 20% through the off-street parking budget that monitors the parking garage and works at the parking garage, as well as assists with other work at other off-street parking locations. In looking at the 2000 accounts, the 2000s are their supplies, these are their consumables. So when you look at that, you'll see that they've got their office supplies. We did do a reduction in tires and tubes based on actual spending that is anticipated this year and what would be needed next year. As well as fleet maintenance and repair parts, there is a reduction there as well, and that's based on looking at what we actually have and what we're trending to have for the next year. In the 3000 accounts, these are our service contracts that we have, so this is when the work is performed. So you'll see that we reduced the contractual services by $30,000. That is because as we move forward with looking at how we're able to better serve our community and provide better transit resources, we are going to be working with a firm as part of our overall transportation plan, so we are going to incorporate that in there versus having a totally separate. So we'll see some efficiency there and some cost savings for that. That is also the contractual services that they use if there is something that needs to be repaired at the parking garage, if they have glass broken or vandalism or something that they need to call a professional in, that does come out of those contractual services. We reduced the contractual printing, again, that's based on our actual needs, as well as reduction in our electric and gas to put that more in line with what our actuals are and what we're trending. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Engel?
backing up to personal services, 1198, salaries and wages, part-time. You're only budgeting 58,000 for next year when it was 100,000 for this year. Is that, do we not have as many part-time folks?
We do not. They have had trouble filling the part-time positions. They have not been able to fill those.
Are they
until-
drivers?
Yes, these are drivers. Yes.
How many do we have or
So
budgeted?
we are budgeted for 15 full-time drivers and 3 part-time drivers. And we currently have 13 full-time drivers
And no
and
part-time?
1 part-time driver that just started.
Any questions at this time?
So, and so the plan would not be to hire 2 more part-timers for next year?
No, the hope is to transition those to full-time. The
Oh.
hope is that we will have more interest in having someone full-time. We've had conversations with Richmond Community Schools and others that are also looking for bus drivers to see if we can find some creative ways to partner together because their individuals are part-time as well. They provide full health benefits to their part-timers, so that is something that we do not provide. They also have a higher pay rate for their part-time drivers than we do as well.
Any additional questions?
Looking for a part-time job.
Hearing none?
Only if I didn't have to work.
Off-street parking.
Okay, off-street parking, this has when we're looking here, you see this is where the revenue from the parking passes that are sold for the various lots that we have, this is where the revenue is received for that. And then that is used to fund, again, that the salary that you see in salary and wages, that's 20% of one individual that is in the transit budget. And then the part-time that you see there in the 1198, that is the part-time person that is assigned to the parking garage.
What exactly do they do part-time there?
So they walk the area and have a presence, but then they also do basic maintenance items like cleaning in the stairwells, ensuring that the benches, the trash is picked up, kind of really serving as that presence there.
Is that every day, a few
Yes.
hours, or what?
Yes, it is. It's every day, a few hours every day.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
do we still use the parking garage basically as the bus depot?
It is currently still the bus transfer station, yes.
And will that continue with the Elderberry project and all the other stuff?
We are looking at options to build a bus transfer station, so we're still trying to identify exactly what we would need, where that might be, and how that might work. We have looked at what some other communities have done, as well as we have looked at some other transportation options that we could provide that would be more agile and nimble to add in addition to having our fixed routes and our paratransit that would operate more on an on-demand basis.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
So, we're not collecting any parking fines. If somebody parks illegally in the parking garage,
I would have to defer that to the police department.
there's nothing budgeted here for parking fines. And we don't have an officer that, I guess that's not a question for you then. We don't have an officer that drives around giving people tickets.
No. No, we don't.
You trying to ruin my life?
Where's the whistle when we need it? Thank you.
Any additional questions regarding off-street parking?
Camera.
Hearing none? Beth, it's your show.
Oh, hey, I'll finish out the evening here.
Thanks, Brad.
So next we have the local income tax, our lit fund, previously edit. So as we look at the expenditures that we have here,
What is that?
so you are in the 2240.
Which tab?
It should say edit 2240.
Mr. Chairman,
Under what department?
07 strategic initiatives. You'll find folders underneath that.
Oh, my apologies.
All these folders,
Gotcha.
worksheets are underneath that.
There we go.
Let's see. Strategic.
Okay, so as we look at the expenditures here, in the 3001 contractual services, that is what is used to fund our 911 contribution to the 911 contract. We will not have a firm number on that until the county goes through their budgeting process, and then that interlocal agreement will come to you for approval, and that typically comes in October. So that will be coming forward. Under the 3990 contractual services, that has been increased. That covers our right-of-way mowing, covers our nuisance mowing. It covers any of the legal fees that we may have. And now, as Mayor mentioned earlier, we are still actively a part of litigation for the former My Way trading site, so we have legal counsel for that. So we continue to pay those bills for that legal service, and then once that resolution comes, then there will be the opportunity to seek the restitution from the other party to recoup those costs. So all of those costs are being tracked so that we have that, so that when we are to the point where we're able to seek that restitution, we have all of the documentation.
Any questions?
Moving on down to the 3151, that is the line item for activities in the city's comprehensive plan that are identified there. In the plan for next year would be comprehensive wayfinding signage. We have had a lot of conversations with our partners about the need to have comprehensive wayfinding signage throughout the community, helping individuals to better navigate and better understand what we have. So this funding would be used to work with a professional consultant that we would issue a request for proposals, and then to work with them on an implementation plan and to fund the fabrication and installation of those signs.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
you said 3151?
Yes.
Consulting fees?
It's city's comprehensive plan, so it's funding that's used for implementation of items identified in the comprehensive plan, and for next.
3151, it doesn't have anything budgeted.
150,000.
150,000.
Not here.
Not on my sheet.
No, my shit.
You guys, it's.
Further down.
It's the
Like I
red
can
line.
see that, right? Did you want me to walk up there?
There's a
I can't see a thing
Okay,
up there.
there's two,
Way down.
3151.
No consulting fees.
Yes,
Oh,
it's
eight.
508 31
Oh, there's three.
51.
So how much is it?
It's 150,000.
I still don't have.
No, I don't have it either.
Yeah, if you
It's
scroll
at the
down
bottom.
to
There's
the
two of them.
the 508.
508.
Yep, row
31
42.
51.
Instead of three.
No, it's 508.
Oh,
and then-
508.
508,
and then
3151.
Okay.
The next line item that you have is the 502-4127. That is for railroad spur repairs. That is 50,000. We have, we are responsible for the tracks on the east side of town adjacent to Transcendia and that area there. We have a monthly inspection with Norfolk Southern, and an inspection report is created from that, and then we have a 30-day period to correct any items identified within that plan. Currently, to date, this year, we've spent just a little over $35,000 on repairing those items that have been identified in those reports.
It's amazing that they can find things for us to repair, but they can't find things for them to repair.
That's what they did back in the spring, early spring.
Yep, every month. I have the pleasure of going out and walking the tracks and looking at all of the good things. The 4435, Tracy Phillips spoke to that in his IT presentation. That's the $284,450.26 for the IT subscriptions that he is funding. The 4,000 is the city beautification. That is the $60,000 that the city commits to weed abatement throughout the city. So with the weed abatement program, we hire a contractor to do that weed abatement throughout the city. The 4332, that is the grant match for transit. And then the 4401, that is the line item for the mayor. And so in looking forward for that, that is typically our memberships to different organizations, as well as training, conferences that are attended and the travel associated with those, as well as its increase next year, because as the mayor mentioned last night, there were a few things that were not included within the budget to cover, as well as there is at least one economic development trip overseas being planned for next year that would see the mayor accompany the Economic Development Corporation and other Indiana state officials overseas.
Where, to where?
Mr. Chairman, that's Japan. We haven't been to Japan since COVID, and there is a conference that's happening next year, and it'll work out well for us to go there and our partners all across Japan to come to that same conference instead of Indiana officials spending a lot of time going a bunch of places around Japan. We can all meet in one place. So the Sister Cities International is putting together a conference in one hotel in Osaka. So I think it'll work out really good. We have 6 direct foreign investment companies in Richmond, and all 6 are Japanese. Our sister cities, Udon? Did I pronounce that right? Okay, Udon.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir, Mr. Engel.
Beth, in 4,000 city beautification, you said for weed treatments.
Correct.
Is that, I saw a person, and this oddly today, on some kind of vehicle that seemed to be spraying weeds around 22nd and East Main. Is that what we're paying for?
That could potentially be part of that. We bid that out each year, and the successful contractor this year was Reinhardt Lawn Care. So
Okay.
I'm not certain if that's who you saw.
Yeah, I don't think so. Maybe it was with the state. Okay, thank you.
It was on 40?
It was, well, he was actually just off 40 on 22nd and East
I
Main.
know on the west side, the state does take care of the weeds on 40.
Okay,
Yeah.
maybe that's what it was. Thanks.
Please proceed.
That is everything within the edit budget.
Any questions regarding the edit? Midwest Industrial.
Alright. With the Midwest Industrial Park, the main source of revenue that you see there is again a farm lease. And as Valerie Schaefer indicated at Monday evening's meeting, we held a pre-bid meeting with farmers that were interested in bidding on that lease. We did have multiple farms represented at that meeting, and they will be submitting their bids. The estimate that we've put in here is based on our current contract, which we have 287.72 acres that are currently leased at $376 an acre. We are hopeful that with the next lease that we will see an increase in that because of the competition and the interest in that. In looking at the expenditures that we have there, the contractual services, within that total, we have $20,000 identified for field tile repair within the Midwest Industrial Park. We are in need of doing an architectural phase 1 and phase 2 study, and we have $95,000 identified for that work, as well as demolition of the barn that is on the property that we acquired last year in the industrial park, and that is a $20,000 to get us to that $135,000 total. The wetlands for capital improvements, that is $15,000, and that is for projected work that will be occurring next year. And the capital project, the Economic Development Corporation is interested in erecting a sign that will be visible from I-70 for the Midwest Industrial Park. And $50,000 would be a contribution from the city towards the total of that. That would be 50% of the cost estimated for the project.
Any questions at this time?
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Engel?
backing up to 5999, unspecified revenue.
That is the farm lease.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr.
Mr.
Chairman.
Burkhardt?
Where is the projected sign location to be?
I don't know that they've gotten that far. The project is being led by the Economic Development Corporation, and I don't know that they've identified that yet.
Thank you.
Any additional questions? Hearing none, I think we're through. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Does council have any comments or questions that need to be asked or at this time?
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Purcell?
yes. From last night's meeting, and the street department and the matching state funds, it was stated that we can get up to $1 million in matching funds. Right now, I can't remember the number that we're actually spending and getting match on. Is it 700? 300 and some?
That's what happened this year too.
Yeah. I wish there was a way we could look and find whether we work through other agencies and other sources and try to get, we need so much more additional money invested. And when you look at free money, basically, from the state, I think we should try to maximize that in some way.
Find a way to make up that $10 million we lose in property caps and circuit breakers, and we'll
Well,
get there.
that's not gonna happen, so, you know.
Well, there's other ways to fix it other than that.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying, is we need to look at, if there is a way to go through any other, like, economic development or whatever, to get some other funds to put toward that match, I think that we should try to go for every penny we can in that match.
Any additional comments or questions? We stand adjourned. Thank you very much. Appreciate all your help.